reenactors showing you another interpretation with a duel. Yeah? Excellent. So what's best to do, since we have again a large group, you'll have a section of this and start an introduction. And Matthew will do the introduction out here, and then you'll carry on going around the control room, up, counter guard, break, and then if they want, lascaris. All right?
Good. So can you put yourself in? Okay, well, just take as many pictures as you want, but please follow me to start with. So. We're going down. You can spread it around. The last one in, give me a shout. Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Malta's war room. Where you're standing is actually a piece of these rooms that was built already by the Knights of St. John's. What happened in the fortification of Valletta? When we come to the 1600, 1700, a lot of people will have different views and different opinions how fortification should be built. And therefore, this fortification will be constantly improved or broken down or rebuilt afterwards. But one thing that was sure is that already artillery had a tremendous role in those days. And that's why in 1566, when the Knights of St. John will build Valletta and basically these bastion, they will build this bomb-proof room that was open for everybody to seek shelter. Eventually, in the 1600, more or less 100 years afterwards, people will realize that due to the development of warfare and artillery, the basic fortification of Malta are not enough, and that's why they will decide to add 2 bastions and even more afterwards, bastions that we will shortly visit. And therefore, to connect these bastions which were outside Valletta, creating some kind of bumper zone to the inner side of the city, they will decide to create a long tunnel coming from here and joining the inside of Valletta to these bastions outside the wall. Story moving on, eventually we reach the Second World War, and when the Second World War starts, the British are completely disorganized when it comes to the defense of Malta. Navies have got their headquarters, more or less operation room in Birgu. You will have the army in St. John's Bastion, the RAF in St. John's Bastion. It is a mess. We need to actually have all these people working together to maximize our efficiency and eventually try to defeat the Axis forces outside of Malta. And therefore, that's why they will decide to use these tunnels, keep on excavating and create a massive underground system. We talk massive underground system. Why? Simply because we are talking about more than 20,000 meters square. We will only today visit a little part of it, but the idea of the foundation, it is to slowly restore all these rooms exactly as they were in those days. Why? Simply because it is what you will see that will decide the fate of Malta and the war in Africa during the Second World War. That fate was decided here in this same room. First room we have here, well, at the beginning, like I said, was simply a bomb shelter. Eventually, the British will add blast wall and protection against possible gas attack. But this room, therefore, will be used as a dining room, a canteen, where the soldiers will be able to eat and rest. Because in these rooms at all time, you would find around 400 soldiers. Soldiers shifting constantly using the same room to keep those defense running 24 hours, 7. But when we will move down inside the tunnel, you will see different cubicles. And these cubicles were used simply to have these people sleeping whenever they could. Eventually we will have a separation that will explain more in detail, that will lead us through the high-ranking officer and the counter guard. But from here all the way through until we will start a big flight of stairs, this was already built by the Knights of St. John. The little concrete block of slabs that you have, or which you are sitting on right now, were added much later in the 50s, simply to put water tank here and provide water for the entire system, because eventually these rooms will be used as well by the NATO force when they had their headquarters here in Valletta. Moving over this little step. If you want to split it, it's up to you. Yeah, okay, just more or less half of them.
So please, the front half of you, just carry on with Antoine.
Mind the steps.
Mind the edge of the steps, please. And the people at the back, just wait there, please.
Okay, going over this little step at the entrance, that was a defensive system just in case people managed to breach the entrance. And then afterwards, all these cubicles where people used to live. We will go up to a second glass wall. Types of where they were used. Some of them are original, some of them were started to be stored, but that's not here. Okay, this is the tunnel into the counter guard. We're going deeper and deeper. That's like Jimmy Roboy. We will come back up this way. Okay, so coming here, as you have seen, flight of steps, coming slowly down, with on one side all these cubicles used by people simply to sleep in. Whichever type of fortification you see during the Second World War, you will find a tremendous amount of blast walls that we came across. Why blast wall? Simply because when we talk about explosive ships, artillery, mainly used during the Second World War, it is the blast that kills people, not the piece of metal going around. That explosion will generate a blast, a shock wave, that will be so powerful that will simply damage all your vital organ, mainly the lungs, and that's what kills people. Problem with Malta, we have hard stone everywhere, and that blast used to ricochet along the wall and injure or kill a tremendous amount of people. And that's why here we're taking no chance. We have blast walls or blast door every now and then to make sure that as long as we're staying here, there is absolutely nothing to fear. Coming into this room, we have a junction going to the right that we will visit in a few minutes. This is the original tunnel. This is the tunnel digged by the Knights of St. John, okay, to join this part of Valletta to the counter guard. But moving a bit deeper, we will reach what served Malta during the Second World War. Obviously, you will see all these rooms need a tremendous amount of renovation, okay, restoration. First step that we have to do all last year is remove any kind of trace of asbestos. That's already cost about 70,000. But first step is just to make the place human-friendly. First room, you will have the anti-aircraft kind of headquarters. And then moving to the next room, of a small room leading to the main one that everybody might have heard of or seen. This is the filter room. This is where all the information around Malta would come, and people here would simply filter this information to see what was useful and what wasn't useful at all. First, a section that we have on top, that would be the anti-aircraft gun operation room, coordinating all the guns around Malta. Why do we need coordination? Simply because when we start the Second World War, the Navy has left for Alexandria. Maltese and British can only rely on two types of army, the soldiers and the aircraft. Before the arrival of the RAF or the aircraft personnel, Maltese or British, the job would have been extremely easy. As soon as we see something flying, it's not ours, and we start shooting in the sky. No, we have British fighters. We have to make sure that we start not shooting our own and only Italians or German airplane. And therefore, they will use radar, they will use ground observators, different tools spread all around the Maltese island. And all this information would be sent over here. But not only air raid, but potential convoy, potential torpedo attacks that will eventually happen. Any kind of threats around the Maltese island. And from this room, whenever they see important information, they will relay it in the operation center, really the heart of the defense system of Malta. This was completely secret because this is where the fate of Malta, the war in North Africa, was actually decided. Moving through this door, we will have the different communication rooms, telephone panels. In those days, they didn't have internet and mobile phone. All communication device used to take a tremendous amount of space. But we did here. Exactly. That's very small room, and I will talk a bit about this now. And then we'll do the function would have been extremely identical. Except that here, we're talking from the beginning of the Battle of Malta as such, all the way up until 1942, 1943. Moving straight down here so we have a bit more space. Good. Coming down here, this is the operation room. Okay, this is where all coordination were set. What you would have is a map of Malta with different sectors. People would receive different information and coordinate the entire defense system of Malta. Top secret, only a few could actually have access to such room. But why as well? Simply because when we come to the war, a lot of us have heard the story of the Enigma. Okay? When the British would actually decipher the German code and start reading what the German and Italians are doing, allowing them to more or less win the war. Problem is, in England, nobody wants the German to realize that they have the Enigma machine. And we have to find a way to use that information without showing what we have. We don't have the Enigma machine here, but what we have is message coming saying, well, there is an Italian convoy leaving towards South Africa. What do we need to do? Well, we know it's there. We need to bomb it, but we need to do it in a more disguised way. So from this room, they would invent different ways to make sure they could bomb that convoy without having as well to show that they could decipher the message of the German. They would send an hydroplane. Oh, by chance, he just came across that convoy. Took picture, make yourself visible by the German or the Italian, turn around, and then 15 minutes later, you would have 20 more fighters doing their job. They would send submarine in the open to be clearly visible. All these things to make sure that eventually the German would never realize, well, basically that the British had such a tool at their disposal. Malta will eventually have all those high-tech kind of communication device only after 1942-43, where now the Germans are out of Sicily, there is no immediate threats whatsoever for the island, and therefore all these communication tools would be sent from England to Malta, where they would be used as well for the invasion of Sicily. Some of you have mentioned the Lascaris War Room. Lascaris War Room at the beginning was designed to be facilities, sleeping rooms, living quarters. But eventually, when the British Allies starts winning the war, we start having too many information. We have to coordinate what's happening in North Africa. We have to coordinate what's happening in Sicily. We have to coordinate, well, so much information that we stop being efficient. And therefore, all this will simply move into the Lascaris War Room to continue the war effort. But nevertheless, when we come to the late 50s, where the NATO will still use this room for the same kind of purposes, and that's why we have this kind of ceiling. Our objective, it is to keep this room as it was when the NATO had them, because we're talking a different era, we're talking Cold War, we're talking nuclear weapon, we're talking a different system of thinking. So keeping the roof, still keeping the original map, we have the original map behind, this replica here. That will cost us as well about 17,000 euros just for that restoration. But at least people will be able to come here in a Cold War environment, but still have the historical map on which all Malta was defended. Do we have any questions so far? Good. If people want to know, you have this room over there. This as well was extended during the Cold War, NATO's. This was called the silent room. Why silent room? Because now we reach a tremendous level of communication. We need to see or hear submarine, and all that room would be completely soundproof. You enter there, only always a few people, and then make sure you do your job properly. But yeah, you can have a glimpse of the original map at the back. This was at that we don't really know when. Yeah, you can take pictures as you want. That's much picture. It's actually been good because we will try to reopen these rooms only once a year while the works are going. If you take picture and you come here, you will see the evolution. First phase of the work, remove all the asbestos, provide electricity and at least a minimum of safety measure. Yes. These walls, the major problem that we would have is humidity. Then we will try to get a solution. The idea of the solution, just with what's so different and better. In those days they don't have fasting time, and all these kinds
That light.
operations room dan il-perjodu insolventi il-gwerra. U mbagħad il-qeqqa nieżel tista' tasal anki għal l-Askaris War Room, se kif qedtilkom diġà tħaffru iktar tard.
Like AIDS, like people helping you know, we still have to share a little room constantly. Only advantage of this section of our room is that they had toilets. They had a minimum of luxury. For all the other 400 people living in the shelter, you wanted to go to the bathroom, you had to go all the way down inside the dish and then all the way back up. Okay, considering that sometimes airway used to last for hours on end, time became very, very long for some of them. And you can see, brigadier of administration,